computer. Boom. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hey, Paige.
Hey.
So I'm glad we're doing this again. We did a Polarity Lab like maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, which was great. And then we thought, this is beneficial. We should do something, put this same information out because we have this awesome event coming up, and I'm really excited about it. And it's November already, and so we're less than 2 weeks away from the kickoff of that. And so we wanted to kind of come on, do a sort of condensed Zoom version of some of the stuff that we talked about when we, did the Polarity Lab a couple weeks ago. And so that's why we're here on this Sunday, and I'm glad to see you.
Yeah, you too, Peter.
Yeah.
Thanks for co-collaborating on this over and over again with me.
Yeah, so you share first about yourself because again, I'm so grateful you reached out really to me about us partnering up on this, and I'm so excited about it. I think it really feels like a great fit, so it's gonna be fun.
Yes, yes. So just briefly, I have been on this path to try to understand how to have a beautiful relationship with myself. My former business was called Love Yourself. And, I've been on this self-love journey for a good solid 15 years, if not longer, probably my whole life, but really stepping fully into discovering how to love myself and, you know, also in that process, I've discovered, I had a failed marriage and, over a year ago, I ended an engagement. And so I was really seeking answers for how to have a successful relationship at the same time continuing my own journey. It was very much a spiritual path for me. Um, uh, Exploring more tantra and kundalini work and moving energy. It really wasn't about like sexuality for me. I think most Americans think tantra is very much about your like sexuality, but for me it was really becoming magnetic and learning how to move that energy, work with that energy. And it has been life changing for me. Just before we recorded this call, I said, even knowing all that I know, I continue to apply it on a daily basis, and it serves me well. It's challenging, and yet it gives back again and again twofold when I actually apply the knowledge. So yeah, it's kind of near and dear to my heart. And then like Peter, I'm, in the health and wellness industry in Eastern medicine. So I feel that it translates, like you will talk more about your process with training for the bedroom, but I've realized that this really translates into all aspects of my life through work, through my kids, through parenting, and just working with my own clientele and even in my relationships. So it's been some of the most powerful work I've done. And now I just feel this deep soul calling to share it with others. And it's just a calling that I feel. And that's why I reached out to you, Peter, because I felt like, oh my gosh, here's another individual, being a male who's working with this. And I just feel like so many men yes, women need this, but I feel like men desperately need this work. And we can touch on some of those points why men need this work right now. I mean, women too, but definitely I think it would help a lot of men out.
Yeah, yeah. Will you just say a little bit about your Tantra training? I know we're not going a lot into all the physical stuff. We're kind of, this
Yes,
is more about the energetics, but it's really
yes.
cool what you went and did.
Yeah, so a couple years ago, I traveled to the south of Italy, Nardo, and I spent an entire month studying Tantra, where we would wake up every morning and do 3 hours of energetic practices. And then we would go till about 10 o'clock at night learning and applying, and also kind of like what we'll do in this workshop, like we would learn theory and then we would do somatic based practices to integrate that knowledge into our soma or into our body. And again, not sexual. This work is somatic embodiment work. So, yes, there are other aspects of sacred sexuality, which we'll do in February for couples called Heart Alchemy. That'll be another offering that we're putting together. But this one is very much deep into the way that like we said, between the poles.
Mm.
Between the poles is how this magnetism works. And so yeah, it was a transformative month that I did with Om Tantra Yoga. And I learned so much, and I'm just, yeah, now I'm just paying it forward.
Nice. Yeah, that's beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, my journey is similar and different, and it's definitely also one of those I'm doing this for me. This is my journey. These are my lessons that I'm learning and hopefully repackaging in a way that they're valuable to others. And it's really a pivotal time, I think, for men in our society and for our society as a whole, because we're starting to wake up to a lot of the truths that are out there. And I joke about this that I'm a recovering nice guy. And it's true. And there were aspects of myself that were related to these energetic dynamics and to polarity, but I didn't necessarily even like have the vocabulary and the concepts down to be able to really talk about it. But, as my own journey of working through relationships and wanting to be a good guy and a good partner and a good dad and a good husband and like trying to show up in all these different ways and you know playing kind of soft, I guess, because like many, I think men in our culture, society today, I was raised primarily by a single mom. My parents divorced when I was young, and this is not a criticism of my mom or my dad. It's just the situation that I was brought up in. My mom had issues with my father. I believe she projected some of those issues onto me. And the story I had in my mind was always don't be your dad. Like your goal is to be better and different than your dad in relationships. And for a long while I like had that as my purpose. Like this is even more so than my medical practice and my own passions and pursuits. I wasn't able to like allow myself to experience the things that mattered to me because I felt selfish and I felt like I had to be self-sacrificial like my mom was and like she professed to us. My journey really came from trying to figure relationships out. And I, at some point got turned on to David Data in his work, and that's when the polarity stuff really started to click for me. Like, what are we talking about with masculine and feminine energy? And my second wife, who I divorced, we got divorced a few years ago. Um, she was an engineer. She had a very masculine focused job. And so it made it kind of easy for us to start to see in our like real world day in and day out, living how these things were showing up. And then it became a thing of like, hey, if we want to have fun together and connect with each other in a different way, we need to be able to flip the polarities. We need to be able to pull her from her masculine engineer work mind and get her into soft, feminine, playful, flowy mind. And then I tend to do kind of a little bit more softer work in practice because I do this holistic medicine. I talk a lot with people about their lifestyle and their food, and it's just a lot of listening and sharing. And so we both kind of were sort of playing in these opposite realms, and figuring out how to switch that up was, fun and eye-opening. And for me, really this journey, what it came down to was like I started wanting to document my own experience and my own discovery here because there are things that I was learning that are valuable for relationships even before I knew about the polarity. And then we bring in the polarity energetics. And then as I'm nearing my 50th birthday, like how do hormones play in and the nutrition stuff and the exercise?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
it's just
yes.
yeah, so there's just all these things, and I love the idea of holism, holistic, like truly looking at the big picture. And so that's what I started to kind of do for myself. And for men was my vision. Like I'm gonna write a book about what I've been doing, and it's gonna be for men. And a comic buddy of mine, because I do comedy as a hobby occasionally for money, we were joking about this because I quit playing soccer a few years ago because like my knees were aching. And he was like, "What are you going to do now?" And I was like, "I don't know. I guess I'll just train for the bedroom." And we both started laughing about it. And he was like, "That's your book title, man. That's the title for the book." And so the training for the bedroom, just like the Between the Poles workshop, it's not really about sex or dating or hookup or pickup culture. It's about holistic life and energy and optimizing ourselves.
Yeah, I want to touch upon what you said, Peter, real quick, if you don't mind.
Please.
When you were saying, because we're both approaching 50, in fact, I think we're both the same age. And I think that people have this idea that magnetism fades over time and that if you're in relationship, that you just settle for like being roommates. And I think for both of us, learning and relationship is I didn't want to sign up for that. I didn't want to be like, oh, I'm giving up my magnetism as I age. Like that was off the table for me. So, like you, it's like tapping into hormones, tapping into all these aspects that we already do, which is diet and lifestyle. And I think even with the best of us, you being a naturopath and me being an Ayurvedic practitioner, it still takes a lot of conscious effort, to stay in your magnetism through your aging process. And I feel like if you do this work, then that anti-aging component and is really potent. I can speak for women,
Mm.
very, very potent medicine. Um, that I think that women that don't go into this magnetism work at this stage in life, it could break their anti-aging potentiality, which we don't have time to go into all that today. But I think that's a very important point that you made.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about the polarity, right? Because we talk about this, it's an energy thing, and it can be easy to want to sort of simplify it and be like, well, it's masculine, feminine, they're opposite, but they're not really. It's more that they're complementary to each other. And
Yes, and that's important too because I think people think sometimes like the whole book, like men, women are from Venus and men are from Mars, makes it seem like, like just the title, not the messaging, but the title's like we're so different. And I think that then that's where the polarity comes in is that it is complementary, but I think people sometimes think, oh, we're so different, we just don't understand each other.
right. No, but when we start to understand that we all contain these energies, masculine and feminine, it's not a gender thing. Men and women have both masculine and feminine energies. And then we get to sort of understand how it's playing out in our own life, which then makes us more capable of observing it in our partners, in the way it's showing up in these dynamics and stuff. And, I think the words are they're weighted words in a way. I mean, feminism,
Mhm.
femininity, these things have been in our culture linguistically, strongly for decades now. And then masculine and masculine's toxic, right? So there's been a lot of stories or kind of ideas around what these things were that unfortunately were not true. And in some cases, we're like almost polar opposite of the reality of like what's been going on. And something that I've observed again, which brings this back to why men need this, is through some of the training for the bedroom stuff that I've been posting and putting out there just in this past week. I had a younger millennial kid message me and thank me for putting out the content because he said, I feel like a lot of younger boys, kids, men my age have a really distorted view of what masculinity is right now. And I think, unfortunately, again, what we're seeing is the very suppressed, like the nice guy, I don't want to let anything out too bold, too big, too directive that seems masculine because if I do, I must be oppressing somebody else, right? Or the like red pill dating world of masculine and like they've got some concepts down about it, but I think in that dating world where there's a lot of frustration for both men and women, then they start thinking about it and it feels again like, oh, we're opposed to each other. If I'm embracing my masculine, then I'm against the feminine in a way. And so I need to show up and like tell them how it is. And it's I think that's unfortunate because there's really so much beauty and love that can be cultivated with these energies in between two partners. And then that's able to kind of spill out into the world.
And I love that because what you're saying, and I think what, if anybody receives any message from this and you do want to do the between the poles, is if I could say anything when we use the masculine and feminine, it's really we're talking about the energies.
Mhm.
The yin or the yang might be helpful for some people, but as soon as you master the energies, then that's where you can play. It's like there's a dance with energy. There's like this, I mean, you just use the visual of two people dancing and it speaks for itself. Like two magnetic beings coming together. I just saw, I think it's like The Life of Chuck. It was the movie out right now. I think a Steven Spielberg movie. And there's this point where Chuck like just breaks out and dances in front of a crowd. And then all of a sudden he grabs the woman in to dance with him, and he's in his strong masculine, she's in her feminine. And the entire like center of the town like comes and surrounds them to watch this magnetism. It's like that, it's infectious. It's so infectious that it turns eyes, it's like um so yeah, I think that's the beauty of this work is that if we take away our societal perceptions of patriarchy or feminism or the 1950s, like classic madman and like the stay-at-home mom, and we just put that aside and we look at these as energies, then it's really fascinating how you can create a beautiful dance of life, with the energies.
Yeah, and then it's absolutely transformative for relationships. And, without a doubt, what we talk about with polarity is creating a charge, an attraction. And, of course, a benefit of that is it plays out in the bedroom and in passion in that way. But it's really the passion of the relationship everywhere. And because that is, I think David Snark wrote about it in his book, Passionate Marriage, right? Like every interaction that a couple has is sort of a microcosm of the bigger dynamic that's playing out. And so again, once we start to learn this and put it into practice, now it's impacting the way we communicate about the kids and about the next vacation and how things are going on at work. And we're just better able to support and show up for our partners in a way that feels more authentic because I can let my female partner connect more to her feminine energy. And I can, even if that becomes big and immense and emotional, I don't have to take it on personally because I can stand secure in my masculine and hold that space for her, right?
Mhm.
And then we could flip that if necessary. If I've got something going on and I need to really connect with my feminine emotional body and feels, I can help or ask or encourage and my partner can understand, oh, I'm gonna hold the space.
Right. And I think that we should touch upon that because it came up when we did our workshop
Yeah.
about women saying, I think this is why it's so pertinent for women to do this work because you've talked about from the male perspective. I feel like from the female perspective, one of the things that came up is we were like, I want my man to be emotional. And that's why this work is so pertinent right now, because I feel like women are trying to hold all this masculine energy in the work. They're taking care of kids, they're running businesses, they're working, they're managing households, and they feel like all they're doing is being in every aspect of life, holding, the torch. And women are kind of like, where are the men? And one of the things we see culturally now is women may be making more money than men. They may be the breadwinner of the family. And what women are saying is like, I need men to be emotional with me. I need this man to like show up for me. And I think that's why this is so pertinent, because that emotional body expression is the feminine, and yet women are craving this in men. So if that's the case, they're wanting men to show up with their emotional vulnerable selves, then we have to have some framework for that to feel safe for men,
Mm,
as well as how it can continue to create magnetism within a couple.
right.
And women are like, why aren't men coming to the table? Why aren't men doing this work? And I feel like if we can do anything right now, it's like a call to men to say, this is a great opportunity to step in and maybe understand how women are wanting men to show up right now when we have women, playing very strong masculine roles out in the world.
Right. It's sort of a that's sort of a precarious dance in that space, because again, a lot of women will say, I want a man who's sensitive, who's able to connect with his emotional body, and there is value in that, but that aspect of that man is not truly attractive to the women's feminine nature, right? And that's the
But it'll be interesting too when we do the workshop, because from a tantra perspective, there is a way that it can be charged where it can be good magnetically for both, and the man can get in that emotional body with a
right,
woman in a way that can still stay really magnetic. And
right.
I think what happens for a lot of men is that happens after lovemaking. It's like all that oxytocin is there, they're connecting with the feminine. But then I think women can get some deep knowledge of what that means, to stay in her magnetism when that happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, it's also a thing where the way to deliver this, the way to express it, that also feels safe for the woman, because she doesn't want her partner to come and just bleh everything on and just like, use her as just this, let me dump everything from work and my childhood. And like, we need to be somewhat particular with it and intentional about it. And you're right, like that in the bedroom after making love, like that is a spot where most men would tend to be softer and maybe able to access that. But there's ways we can help support people to access that, without it having to be bedroom related. And then again, understanding, okay, this is something that is truly important for me to share with my partner. And so I'm going to be open and vulnerable here and, make sure she's in a space to receive it. Like we want to do it at the right time. Because too often, right, what happens with at least this is my experience, right, in relationships, it's like two individuals get charged or triggered and they're in the same energetic space. We're like both in our feminine, or we're both trying to control the situation in our masculine. And that's where the polarities, if you're in the same, they repel each other, right? And so
Right.
just being aware of this dynamic again is
Yeah.
phase one.
I feel like going back to what you were saying about the nice guy, I feel what a lot of women are contending with right now, and why this work is pertinent for women, is that they're angry and they're like sharp and critical and judgmental of men, and they don't know another way.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was why this work was so powerful for me, is it's like I had this sharp tongue coming from some bad experiences where it was like, I call it like if anyone's knows the goddess Kali. Like she's like the goddess of destruction. And like I feel like women get so fed up that they have this Kali energy that they embrace. I call it the dark feminine. And it can be very healing, but at the same time, it doesn't necessarily bring about healing polarity
Right.
in a way that is constructive. And so I feel like for me, there, I came from that like feminist, like we're going to prove ourselves in the world, we're going to be successful. And then we got there. We all got there. We arrived. We did the thing. We went into the masculine world and we manned up. And then we're like, fuck, we're doing more than we ever thought we could possibly imagine. And then there's this like resentment, this like
Mm.
deep underlying resentment that kind of runs through the currents of our culture right now, especially towards men. But I feel like what this process did is it gave me a better way. It
Yes.
gave me a way to heal successfully because I then understood how to move the energy and work with the energy.
Yes.
And that's why I always use the word divine feminine because I feel like there's the wounded feminine, just like the wounded masculine. You were in your wounded masculine as like the nice guy, and the wounded feminine is the angry, the resentful, the critical, the judgmental, the blaming, where she can blow up and think she has for full right, full reign to say or do whatever she wants because she feels entitled for that retribution
Right.
towards the patriarchy. And what I see is like if we come into our divine energies in the proper way, we can bring about. I came up with this the other day and I want to do a post on it, but we have the desire of the feminine, the direction of the masculine creates like what you can call like destiny or dharma or even like divinity. It's like if you master these energies, what's on the other side of that is we're stronger together than we are singularly.
Yes. And I think too, one again, the feminine, I like David Data, I think often uses the analogy of the weather, right? And so there's days when it's storming, that feminine energy, and it can be scary and overwhelming, and you got to batten down the hatches if you want to survive it. But then you can come out on the other side and have a beautiful sunny, day. And I feel like as I've become more aware of the power of that feminine energy, I respect and appreciate it in all its forms, and I want my partner or partners or whoever to be able to bring that and be able to receive it, be able to experience it from a masculine, safe, present space and not have to take it all on. And again, back to David Stark in his book Passion and Marriage, he called it differentiation, like being able to be in proximity. And I think understanding this allows us to do that. I think also, there's something there's something really important in the feminine's energetic heart. And like for men, when our women are upset, there's something they're telling us. There's something we should be taking from that. And again, maybe the message isn't delivered in the most perfect way, but recognizing, hey, there is something here and trying to be present to it and what it is, it can be extremely helpful for men because we want to be on purpose. We want to be intentional and directive in pursuing the things that are, passionate for us and important for our relationships and our family and friends and our feminine partners, our feminine support. Like that's what they're there for, is to help guide us along the way. And when we're walking in the right direction and showing up the way we're supposed to, that feminine energy is like the fuel to move it, right? That passion and yeah, I love it. So I'm just so excited that we're, on this journey for ourselves, but then we're in a place where we can bring it and share it and start talking with some other people about it.
Yeah, and just to go back to what you said, in Tantra, the feminine is the oracle. So she's
Mhm.
there to inform the man.
Yes.
And I feel like that's where women are at right now. They're like, we're the oracle, men, listen up, like we're the oracle. And it's like, what are the men doing? There's this like deep collective consciousness of like the feminine right now, just really struggling with that, with the
Mhm.
masculine energy on a collective level.
But hopefully we're through these conversations and through these understandings, we're creating a way to make this dialogue smoother and
Yes,
more.
yes. That's the thing is this process then allows a lot, like I said, it's like a collective healing that I feel, that's why I feel our work is so important right now, is
Yeah.
there's a collective healing that needs to occur.
So talk a little bit about the Between the Poles weekend and like what we're gonna expect and what this is gonna be like. And
Yeah, so it's the weekend of November 14th through the 16th. So we'll start on a Friday night just to do meet and greet and introduce ourselves and kind of why we're there so we can start to like break the ice on what we want to achieve that weekend. And then we'll start on Saturday and go till 5 o'clock, and then Sunday go till 5. So what we'll do is Peter and I will instruct on the concepts. And then what'll be beautiful is it's not just theory. So we're actually going to break into the practices so that we can start to embody and play with these energies. And just use some core practices to just really get that active energy moving and see how it plays out and just how we respond and feel into those energies. And so, yeah, it'll just be instruction, embodiment. So then when you leave the workshop, you'll have some real tangible uh, practices to do on your own. And if you are in partnership, but also if you're single, you don't have to be. And in fact, I sometimes think this work is better done alone than when you are in partnership because that's where, I mean, ultimately at the end of the day, our self-love, when I just said, desire plus direction equals like kind of that destiny of divinity or dharma. Like once we embody this, like we can take those masculine and feminine energies and the mileage that we can create within ourselves is just absolutely beautiful.
and again, so it doesn't require couples. This is for singles and couples. And really, there's no prerequisite required, right? I mean, it doesn't have to even be people who are yogis or
Mhm.
patients or clients for either one of us. This can be anybody who's interested in these topics, in these conversations.
Yeah, and I'll just say in terms of price, like I think this work is priceless because we were saying just before the call, I mean, I'm applying it literally every single day in my life. And so I don't think you could put a number on it because it's like better than a lot of therapy work that I've done. I'm a pro doing all kinds of different like therapies, but from an embodiment perspective, a lot of the therapy work in the industry is moving more towards somatic embodiment practices. We see this with like EMDR and IFS therapy. So to be able to metabolize that energy within ourselves is life changing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, and then we've got the Love Yourself website for people to
Mhm.
get registered. We're going to put that in the description here, and then we're going to continue to post and promote this leading up to that weekend of the 14th, 15th, and 16th. Is there anything else, Paige, we should say, you think, before wrapping up this little session?
I'll say if people are listening to this call and they want to do it and they're single, then, ask a friend to join you. It doesn't have to be a partner. You could ask a girlfriend or a guy friend. It'd be great. I think a lot of times what happens with these workshops is we get predominantly women that do it. So it'd be great if men are listening, especially like the guy that reached out to you, to really get some men there because there might be some single women that need a person to work that energy off of. And I think again, it's going to be beneficial for males and females. Yeah, I think just coming along with a friend, if you don't have a partner, would be a great thing to share because it's nice once you know this information. Like Elizabeth and I, she's my best friend, and Peter's done a couple podcasts with her. But I mean, on a regular basis, Elizabeth and I are like, okay, like let me talk to you about my feminine and my masculine energy. So it's great that when you know somebody who knows this stuff, like you're going through it, to then like really bounce this energy off of a friend or talk about it so you continue to kind of progress that work forward into your life.
Yeah. And that was something too, I think we talked about when we were kind of envisioning this like, what are the reasons people might be coming? And it was like, oh, yeah, it's personal, just growth, wanting to discover this. Or maybe it is because it's a single person who's frustrated with dating. And why can't I connect with someone energetically? Why am I not attracting the right people into my world? Or couples that feel like, hey, we're just, moving parallel to each other. How do we bring some attraction back in? So there's a lot of different reasons why people might want to sign up for this and invest in themselves and spend a weekend with us talking about polarity and relationships and the dynamics between the masculine and feminine. I think it's going to be beautiful.
Yeah, and one last thing, I think too, just, we talked a lot about the relationship polarity, but both you and I bring a wealth of knowledge. Like you said, you're training for the bedroom with the health and wellness, like understanding hormones, understanding this stage of life. So we bring like a wealth of years and years of experience, and also not within ourselves, but working with, with our clients. So I think we together, I feel like we are offering something really, really special.
Yeah, and it just makes sense. It's like if you're going to come in and start working on your relationship with your partner, hey, why not clean up your diet a little bit? Why not talk about your
Mhm.
sleep schedule and some exercise and maybe some supplements? And hey, maybe the hormones are a factor in what's going on here too. So, yeah, that's the beautiful of holism and just really looking at people as individuals and
Mhm.
where they're at. So, I'm
Mhm.
I'm super excited, Paige.
I'm excited too, and I'm so glad that I reached out to you. And yeah, we'll give this a go, November 14th through the 16th.
Yeah, so it's going to be great. So thank you all. Anybody who watches this,
Thank
click the
you.
link, check out the details. We'd love to have you join us on the 14th, 15th, and 16th.
Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, I'll see you soon.
Bye bye.
Bye.